Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back. Someone asked a question as follows. Is there a ritual I can learn to empower myself spiritually further? And relating to building this new lifestyle spiritually. I know there are people who listen to things on a spiritual level, but I guarantee you there are certain things that if I begin to talk about it, even if you're not hesitant, you might kind of frown your eyes a little bit and go, what? There's a lot of things in this world that we have available to us that we don't use when it comes to lifestyle. See, this question that was asked by this party, I'm going to just create a separate video about it rather than having them do a consultation, because if this one man is asking this, I'm quite certain there are others who need it. Because what we are is we are spiritual creatures first, then social beings second, and then whatever we identify as, whether it's our name or our occupation or what we love. When we say, I love so-and-so, my favorite food is this, you're identifying with it. And that thing you're identifying is an extension of you, an effect of you being the cause. But what you are first is a spiritual being, and secondly, a social being. That's the reason why we need human interaction, no matter how small or how big. It's the reason why when you enter into a room and you say hi to someone and you don't say hi to someone else feels a little bit upset and feels as though you've upset them, because that's a social interaction. And also, attention is energy. And wherever energy goes, there's life there. That's the reason why women love attention, because attention is energy. Whenever attention goes, energy is. Energy is life. And that energy is a spiritual one. It's not something you can physically calculate. And if you do physically calculate it, it's going to be limited to some auric field or electromagnetic field or spectrum of light. Outside of that, what you feel is the substance of it. So what you already are naturally is spiritual first, social second, and whatever you call yourself as a name, which will be your correlation to your spiritual appeal, because names respond to who you are. Whatever you call yourself has a meaning. Names have meaning. And every time you utter a specific name, it's like uttering a term. A term has a definition. Your name is the term. The definition is the meaning of that name. Every time you utter someone's name, you are invoking the spiritual essence of that. Like the name Mahmoud. Mahmoud means someone trustworthy. And in some cases, it can mean someone who is handsome. So every time you call someone named Mahmoud, you're saying, hey, the trustworthy one or the handsome one. You are invoking that third attribute of what they are on a spiritual level, which they identify with. When you say someone is Muhammad, Muhammad means someone who's worthy of praise, or someone who's also trustworthy. So whenever people say the name Muhammad, they're saying the one worthy of praise or the one that's trustworthy. When you say your name is Bernard, Bernard means a brave one, someone who has a lion heart. You are really literally evoking the essence of what they respond to. Whatever someone calls you and you stop and you respond to them, there's a spiritual attribute that's causing you to stop. That's the reason why certain spirits and certain entities has very, very specific names. These names of these entities, Thor, God of Thunder, it means something. It relates to something. And when you look at that name, it relates to a plant. For instance, there are certain plants that you can use to capture thunder or prevent thunder from striking from a house. There are other things you can do to consecrate your properties for protection. So on and so forth. There are things you can put in places to pull crowd, to assist you if you have a physical business. There are things you can do to increase luck. So all those are encompassing when it comes to lifestyle. Where to begin is really not even the question. How to begin expressing it without really creeping people out is the thing. Yeah, sure, you know, working with plants is good, but there are certain things to it. But let's begin with you as a human being first. You have liquid that comes out of your body. Urine is one of them. Did you know that one of the spiritual practices that, as I've grown up and as I've learned, as I've seen that actually works, is to use your urine for protection? Here's an explanation of it. When we go to sleep, given we're spiritual beings, we tend to see things, either a past events that are currently happening or that are to occur. Those with higher ability of clairvoyant and clairsentient usually have visions in their dreams and they'll rest and wake up and see it play out. Most of us are like this. Some created a bit better than others when it comes to that specific ability. So if there's any spiritual lifestyle, the first thing that I will tell you to do is to find out who you are. Most people really don't find out who they are. When you ask them, who are you? They will tell you their name. Your name is not who you are. Your name is the third attribute relating to your spiritual essence. What you really are is a spiritual being. And even if people say you are a spiritual being, most don't know what it means to be a spiritual being. A lot have made a determination based on their destiny before coming into this world as to who they are, what they will do, how they will do it, what they should not do to increase success. Some people, believe it or not, that thing called earthing, where you allow the minerals to come and you calcify the sole of your foot to become stronger and attract nutrient, it's actually a taboo for some people to do that. The more their foot comes in contact with the ground, see those white part in your palm and the transparent part that looks a little bit, that has a different type of melanin, the pheomelanin, the transparent part, that part releases energy and is not as protected spiritually than the other part of your body with humelanin, which is darker. Every time you step into something and come in contact with it through your hand or through your feet, your life force is leaving. Those who are usually air signs are oftentimes advised not to walk barefooted too often, or not to step on other people's path that they've walked barefooted, because those who are air signs are often very open to spiritual attacks, given the nature of their sign. And this is all part of divination that's done for people who are born, like for West Africa, for instance. There's something called Akose or Sentai, which is where you basically take Ifa and you do the divination in a child and look at all the path, the life path of that child. We're not speaking of astrology here. See, astrology can only see so far. If you have a road that's 100 miles long, astrology can only see as far as 100 meters. To know your ascendant, your square, your Mercury, where the house is, all that only accounts for 100 meters of where your life path really is. It's the reason why you see most people who speak about spirituality, astrology, all these things, they are still suffering. Women who speak, this is the truth here. Let's all be realistic. Women who speak about astrology, fifth house and this, they are usually the ones who fall for men who are screwed up. They get these different men going between their legs, and they get mentally screwed up, emotionally messed up, and all physically jagged up. They carry around STDs looking cute, putting a bunch of shea butter and coconut oil, light and incense, all that stuff, all that hypocrisy. And another thing I know with spirituality is women don't realize that the moment they lose their virginity, there's a spiritual essence that leaves with that. The nature and the quality of man that causes a woman to lose her virginity, it's the nature and the quality of spiritual essence that's deposited into that woman forever. And the reason why back in the days, or in certain cultures still today, certain children wait till they're married, or their parents arrange the marriage for them, completely different from what you see in documentaries where they look like they're compelled to do it. Things you groom the child to be prepared for that and know that. And based on the life path and spiritual path that you search for that child, you would know what's best for that child. And the child would also know based on certain rite of passage. And the child, see, rite of passage exists so that the child will have first-hand experience of certain things about their spiritual nature beyond what their parents already know, so that their spiritual intelligence could be increased at a certain level. That way there could be unity in the state of mind of culture. When a woman loses her virginity to a man, if she's not careful, it's like taking something very valuable from her and never giving it back to her. Most of these women you see walking around are empty spiritually. Virginity to a woman is extremely important. Same thing applies to a man. So things like that are part of spiritual lifestyle that people have to pay attention to. So with the Kosejayi or Sentai, it's a divination that will see the element associated with you and certain attributes to you. And there are certain things called Odu. Odus are the path or the principles or the divinity manifested in form of codes within the spiritual system of Ifa. So there's 16 of them, but total of 256 combination of algorithms. And each man or woman that's walking this earth has an Odu that they bring to life. The Odu that you bring to life when they do that divination for you as a child before the 7th day of you coming out of your mother, that will tell you which Odu you come with. This Odu that you come with would basically lay out everything about your life path to you. What you would do, when you do it, how you do it. If being with more than one wife is appropriate for you. Most people don't realize that. When I hear a lot of people in the Western world speak about having more than one wife, this and that, polygamy, they don't realize that that's intertwined with culture. And there's a law behind how you choose more than one wife that you have. There's a law to how you choose the path of profession that you take. Literally, there are customary laws that are governing those things. And those customary laws are tied to which Odu that comes with you. Odu that you come with will literally lay it out to you because each of these are laws. When I say principles, is no different than law. Very simple. And you have to find your own law because every one of us are not made equal. So if you really want to speak about lifestyle on that deep level, if I want to be real with you without sugarcoating it or giving you some fanatic BS of some culture or changing your name to Ifadari or Gonshola or Shumbi, all those things you see people do here. Some of those people, their divine essence is not even with Oshun. It's probably with Oramiya. It's probably with Shango. And beyond the 7 Irumoles, which are the most popular ones that people know of, there are 401 of those deities. And another thing people don't realize with these is that those 401 deities are the ancestral spirit in West Africa. Unless you have direct link to West Africa, those ancestral spirits will not really respond to you that well. What you have to do is you have to find your ancestral spirit in this part of the world because there's always an equivalence to it. All these different cultures around the world consecrate certain ancestral spirit based on their Odu because those ancestral spirit has an Odu that comes with them. And if you were born with a similar Odu, that will be the Orisha or Romale or ancestral spirit that merges with you because that's the bloodline that you're attached to spiritually. Remember, a post is made regarding reincarnation and how you reincarnate through a certain family lineage. All those things are connected. Now, if Ogun is relating to technology, iron, war, and things like that, which is Mars, and Shango is Uranus, which is associated with great change and greater cycle and governance and things like that, you would look at those foundational, because these planetary influences and these ancestral influences are really interconnected. Because, for instance, when you do the rite of passage for Ogun, there's a specific plant that you use. When you do the rite of passage for Ifa, there's a specific plant that you use. These plants are connected to the spiritual attribute of these ancestral essence. And these ancestral essence are based on the Odu that those men and women who were just like you and I, physically walking. These are not some speculative stuff from folklore. These were physical men and women that they were born by a woman and a father inseminated his sperm into a woman to bring them into life. When you come into this earth with similar principle called Odu as them, that's when they say that that is your Orisha. That's what that means. And each of these Orisha have specific planetary influence attached to them, just like you as a, say you are an Aquarius, and we know it's a water sign, but then there's a lower octave and there's a higher octave. It's like there's a lower octave of air sign and there's a higher octave of the air sign, Gemini, Libra, so and so. There's the same thing with these Orishas, and they're plants that will be used to consecrate you. Now imagine these people, a woman whose essence is consecrated to Orishaoko, which is one of the deities of Batala, but she's saying her spiritual essence is that of Oya. So now she changes her name to this and that. What if that principle actually conflicts the divinity that exists in her? These people don't get this, and your name has the spiritual essence to it. The name that you carry is your essence. The essence defines how things work. That's very important when it comes to lifestyle. So names are important, and finding who you are is important as a way to start. But if I was to give you any general things that I've learned, one thing we all have in common, going back to the note of having visions and dreams, nightmares. See, visions and dreams are good to have because they would assist you prepare, as most West African cultures, forward, now, and the past are the same. Past, present, or future are exactly the same. The only difference is the angle to which we're observing it. I'll say that again. The past, present, and future are no different. They're one. It's just one dot. And the way we're observing it is what makes us determine whether we're looking at it from the point of the past, present, or future. And that is the circle. Depending on where we're positioning the circle that's outside that dot will determine whether it's past, present, or future. So that makes a huge determination in human affairs. It's just to the extent whereby when people have visions, it actually comes to life because they don't know how to counterbalance it. Some visions can be good or bad. When it's what we perceive as bad, it's called nightmares. Some people have hideous visions based on their thoughts and their fortune that they themselves have created. Now, as a caveat at this portion, I have to say this. Sometimes most people have nightmares because they consume food too close to their bedtime. When this happens, that brain called your solar plexus that's connected directly to your nerves, to which your brain that's basically beaming out that movie to you like they do it back in the days in the movies. That solar plexus is the fuel that's allowing that brain to shed that light that you've seen as a vision. If it's too occupied and too clogged, you're going to be tense and tight, and your breathing is going to be affected. And when your breathing is affected and your nervous system and your muscles are tight, you're more likely to have nightmares. So sometimes it's really not necessarily a spiritual thing. It's just that you consumed matter too close to your bedtime. So let's just leave that caveat out there. No different than when people have ears ringing to the right or to the left during certain times of the day. That means something. But in some cases, it probably just means that man or woman just needs to go clean their ears. So there's some common sense level to certain things. But if those things are not part of the equation, then it's reasonable to step into the spiritual interpretation of things, just as a caveat. So here's one thing that I will tell you. If you have any nightmares or anything bad that you don't want to manifest, when you wake up in the morning without speaking to anyone, the urine that comes out of your kidney, take it, go. The complete 39-minute videos on the Patreon page. Take care. Best of luck.